going to get tea. It's Stephanie White. She has had enough of what she has seen from the officials here today. Understandable frustration from Stephanie White.
Couple of possessions in a row where Leah Boston got the fouls. I thought the first one should have been on Howard. And then here, as Petty's in there, Hillman kind of tosses her to the side a little bit, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back there.
What's worse, going into game one missing 6 players, or seeing the referees tilt the floor against you in the biggest moment of your season? That's exactly what the Indiana Fever dealt with against the Atlanta Dream. And you could feel the frustration boiling over. Stephanie White went off and literally got a technical foul for saying what every fan was already thinking. So, how does a team held together by tape and grit keep fighting through injuries and officiating chaos? Was it really bad luck or something that felt a whole lot more like sabotage? Stay with me because what happened in Game 1 has fans furious, players livid, and the entire league buzzing about whether the Fever were robbed. Do you think the Fever was robbed by the refs? Let us know down in the comments below.
Caitlyn Clark, Chloe Bibby right there on the bench. But then you have Sophie Cunningham, Sid Colson, Ari McDonald, all actually having to sit separate from the bench. You also have Demiris.
Imagine walking into the playoffs, missing half your rotation before the ball even tips. How do you even try to compete? That's the exact nightmare the Indiana Fever faced. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 players. You want to talk about bad luck? Caitlyn Clark's groin injury was already a season ender. Chloe Bibby's knee took her out. Sophie Cunningham and Sydney Colson were gone with their own knee problems. Ari McDonald was sidelined with her foot. And just to make the cut even deeper, less than 24 hours before Game 1, Dyrus Dantas was slapped by concussion protocol. That's 6 players who should have been suiting up. 6 rotation pieces stripped away. And yet this team still had to step onto the floor against a dream roster that was fully loaded and waiting.
Injured reserves here with you guys, which last month, they just weren't able to travel. What does that mean to you specifically, just having them there?
Yeah, I was super excited. I think just looking at the injured squad in itself, they just have a lot of knowledge. And so for us, just being able to listen to them, taking what they see, because obviously just them watching is going to be a different view than us on that court. And so super happy to have.
How is that fair to the players or the fans? Indiana fought through this exact kind of punishment all season just to secure the 6th seed. They scratched and clawed their way through months of lineups shuffled together like a puzzle, missing entire pieces. And instead of being rewarded with a clean slate for the playoffs, they showed up in Atlanta with more names on the inactive list than some teams have on their bench.
Players that haven't been able to travel, some of them, but most of them are here now. How do they help kind of from a culture-wise and with just bringing some perspective with you guys?
Yeah, we miss them every day on the court. So to be able to have them we had our plane, in front of our plane, normally we have empty seats. It was filled on the way here. So, they bring energy, they bring light, they bring, their vocal leaders, all of them. So to have them on this trip is huge. And I don't know how we're going to fit everyone on the bench. It's not that long. It's been packed recently. So, I'm excited to see how we figure that out, but it'll be great to have them back.
When you looked at Indiana's bench, it was almost comical. Every single player, injured or not, traveled with the team. 16 players in total. It showed unity, but also highlighted how extreme their injury situation had become. There weren't even enough seats. Some of the injured players in street clothes had to sit in a second row behind the bench, like they were waiting at an airport gate.
They're finally able to travel from a medical standpoint as well. So, I think having the whole group here, having those guys here gives us a little bit of a boost emotionally. And then having their perspective. You're talking about 3 point guards that are sitting on the sideline that can talk to our team in huddles, that can talk to our team, throughout the course of dead balls or when they come on and off.
That's when you know you've hit the injury lottery. But at least they were healthy enough to travel again, and their presence gave the team a mental boost. 3 point guards, sidelined but still active, could coach from the sideline, giving advice during huddles and dead balls. That kind of perspective mattered. Here's the difference, though. Other playoff teams had backups ready, dependable players they could rotate when stars needed rest or got into foul trouble.
Referees did, and I know why Stephanie White got a technical foul. Any coach that had to watch their team work so hard all season long, played through every single injuries. And the reason why they had so many injuries is because of these referees.
Indiana didn't have that luxury. They were down to whoever could still walk, surviving on tape, grit, and sheer stubbornness. And yet, somehow, they still made the playoffs 2 years in a row. That's resilience. Even Sophie Cunningham, stuck in knee rehab, joked she was basically part of the medical staff now. A throwaway line, but it showed how bizarre the season was. A starter reduced to cheerleader, laughing through pain while knowing she should be out there taking shots. That's the Fever in a nutshell, smiling through the chaos. And the wildest part? Injuries didn't stop them in Game 1. Indiana came out swinging, caught Atlanta by surprise, and built an early lead. It looked like they were too stubborn to notice their disadvantages. But then the referees decided to take over. This is why head coach Stephanie White got a technical foul. Imagine grinding all season, battling through injuries, only for the refs to tilt the game with nonsense whistles. Every playoff matchup has swings, but nothing kills momentum faster than calls that make no sense. Indiana jumped out 15-6, with Kelsey Mitchell hitting early shots and Aaliyah Boston owning the boards. The Fever looked locked in, like they were about to pull off the impossible. But the whistle started. Ryan Howard fell down on her own, foul. Mitchell tried to defend, cleanly, foul. Lexie Hall was called for fouls even when replays showed she didn't touch anyone. White had to use her challenges early, winning both. Proof the refs were flat out missing things. But she ran out of challenges by the second quarter, leaving her team exposed. Meanwhile, Atlanta's physical play went unchecked. Boston took elbows. Turner got shoved. No calls. Every time Indiana played physical, whistle. Every time Atlanta did, play on. It broke rhythm, drained energy, and rattled confidence. By the fourth quarter, the frustration boiled over. White snapped at the refs after Ryan Howard pulled on Shaw Petty with no call and got hit with a technical. Odyssey Sims Dove for a loose ball should have been praised for hustle, but was whistled instead. Even Caitlyn Clark, injured and in street clothes, had to step in and calm her head coach down. The image was surreal, the sophomore star, sidelined, keeping her coach from exploding. Atlanta thrived in the chaos. The whistles, the inconsistencies, the emotional storm, it all swung the game away from Indiana. The Indiana Fever entered the 2024 playoffs with the weight of an entire season resting on their shoulders. Injuries had gutted their roster, leaving them to patch together lineups with whoever could still stand upright. 6 players were sidelined, including Caitlyn Clark, whose absence stripped Indiana of the one element that could stretch defenses and keep opponents honest: deep-range gravity. Still, despite the odds, the Fever showed up. And when you looked at the bench in Game 1, it was both inspiring and absurd. All 16 players traveled with the team, even the injured. The sight of the whole squad together screamed unity, but also spotlighted just how devastating their injury crisis had become. There weren't enough chairs to seat them all. Some in street clothes had to sit in a second row behind the bench, like they were waiting for a delayed boarding call at the airport. That's how dire things had gotten. The injury lottery had claimed Indiana. Yet the decision to bring everyone wasn't just symbolic. Those sideline players offered value in huddles, during dead balls, and even mid-play stoppages. With 3-point guards stuck on the sideline, the Fever essentially added another coaching staff. They gave real-time perspective, calming voices, and tactical reminders. For a group running on fumes, that kind of presence mattered. But let's not sugarcoat it. While other playoff teams rotated reliable backups or fresh legs, Indiana leaned on tape, grit, and stubbornness. They weren't just shorthanded. They were working with a patched-up roster held together by prayer. The fact that they even made the postseason for the second straight year was a testament to resilience. Sophie Cunningham, sidelined with a knee injury, summed it up best with her dry humor. She joked she was basically part of the medical staff now. It was a throwaway line, but it spoke volumes. A starter reduced to cheerleader, cracking jokes to mask frustration, while the team forged ahead with whoever was left standing. That was the Fever story in one sentence: smiling through chaos. From the opening tip, Indiana came out swinging. They stunned Atlanta with intensity, building a quick 15-6 lead. Kelsey Mitchell, as always, was the spark plug. She drilled jumpers with confidence, slicing through Atlanta's defense, while Aaliyah Boston controlled the glass. For a fleeting moment, it looked like the impossible was unfolding, a battered Fever roster threatening a fully stocked Dream squad. The referees inserted themselves, and suddenly momentum shifted. Ryan Howard tripped, foul on Indiana. Mitchell fought through a screen, cleanly foul. Lexie Hull stood in perfect defensive position, didn't touch anyone, and still heard her number called. Coach Stephanie White was forced to burn challenges early, winning them both. That proved what everyone watching knew. The officials were missing obvious calls. But White didn't have unlimited challenges. By the second quarter, she had none left. From there, the game felt lopsided. Indiana's physicality drew whistles. Atlanta's did not. Boston took elbows to the face without fouls. Turner got shoved out of bounds without whistles. Meanwhile, the smallest hip check against Atlanta resulted in free throws. It wasn't just frustrating, it was demoralizing. By the fourth quarter, White's patience cracked. After Ryan Howard yanked Shaw Petty with no whistle, White barked at the refs and was slapped with a technical foul. Even Odyssey Sims, diving for a loose ball, got whistled. That's when the chaos peaked. In a surreal moment, Caitlyn Clark, injured, dressed in street clothes, stepped in to calm her head coach. Imagine that, a sophomore star, sidelined, acting as peacekeeper to prevent her coach from being tossed. Atlanta thrived in the storm. The Dream capitalized on every whistle, stringing together a third-quarter run that stretched the lead beyond Indiana's reach. Suddenly, the hill was too steep to climb. The Fever's hot start was buried under the weight of whistles and missed opportunities. The headlines afterward didn't focus on Indiana's effort or Mitchell's brilliance. They focused on officiating. Fans debated whether Indiana lost to Atlanta or to the referees. But inside the locker room, the message was clear. Regardless of the calls, the Fever never stopped fighting. And that in itself was victory. Kelsey Mitchell was spectacular. With 27 points, she delivered a playoff career high, shooting nearly 50% from the field and hitting almost every free throw. Every time Indiana's offense sputtered, she reignited it. But Mitchell didn't just score. She dished 4 assists, grabbed a block, and played with relentless energy. She refused to let the season slip away quietly. Her highlights painted the picture, weaving through traffic, finishing off glass against taller defenders, drilling a clutch 3 to stop a run. She was everywhere, fighting for every point. Yet even with her brilliance, the void left by Caitlyn Clark was glaring. Without Clark's shooting range, Atlanta packed the paint. They dared Indiana to beat them from deep, and the Fever couldn't. Aaliyah Boston embodied grit. Battling foul trouble, she still hauled in 12 rebounds against a wave of defenders. Offensively, she was quieter, just 8 points on limited touches, but her effort was undeniable. Every rebound was a war. Every post-up was a wrestling match. Even with multiple bodies leaning on her, Boston kept Indiana competitive. Her buckets, when they came, were flashes of brilliance. A turnaround jumper here, a strong finish through contact there. But the lack of spacing smothered her. With Atlanta collapsing inside, Boston's path to scoring was brutally narrow. Still, she never stopped working. Lexie Hull's stat line won't leap off the page, 9 points, 1 3, but her impact went beyond numbers. She chased guards around screens, scrapped for loose balls, and injected energy at every turn. Hull's willingness to do the dirty work kept Indiana afloat. When she buried her lone 3, it was one of the few moments the Fever's outside shooting broke through Atlanta's wall. She embodied the effort no box score can capture. Without her fight, Indiana's energy might have collapsed. While Indiana fought with grit, Atlanta rolled out depth. Alicia Gray and Ryan Howard each scored 20, Naz Hillman added 16 off the bench, and Brittney Griner's presence in the paint created space for everyone else. The Dream rotated fresh bodies like waves, while Indiana clung to their starters. That contrast told the story. The Fever shot under 35% from the field, including a brutal 2 for 15 from 3. Meanwhile, Atlanta pounded the boards, cleaning up misses and turning them into second chances. Each possession wore Indiana down. By the fourth quarter, the difference in depth was glaring. And yet, despite everything, Indiana never folded. They fought until the final buzzer. The players knew their chance hadn't vanished, it had shifted. The next chapter would be written in Indianapolis, at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. That matters. Because for the first time since 2016, the Fever will host a playoff game at home. Nearly a decade has passed since playoff basketball came to Gainbridge. Now, battered and shorthanded, Indiana returns with their season hanging by a thread. The stage is set. Sunday night marks the Fever's first home playoff game in 8 years. For fans, it's more than a matchup. It's a reminder that playoff basketball in Indiana still means something. The energy inside Gainbridge will be deafening. But let's not forget the challenge. Indiana remains down the same 6 players. Clark, Cunningham, Coulson, McDonald, Chloe Baby, and Dantas are all out. Depth remains their Achilles heel. Atlanta knows the blueprint. Collapse the paint, swarm Boston, suffocate Mitchell, and force Indiana's role players to shoot. If the Fever can't find rhythm from 3, the task gets steeper. Coach White has made it clear. The offense must move. The ball can't stick. Quick decisions, sharp passing, and clean execution are non-negotiable. Atlanta's size and length won't shrink. Indiana must find ways to counter. Mitchell, of course, will carry the scoring burden. But she can't do it alone. Boston will battle inside, Hull will provide energy, and Turner or Hartley must emerge as secondary scorers. Someone else has to step up, or Atlanta will load up on Mitchell again and choke out her lanes. That's where the crowd comes in. 17,000 fans can't guard Ryan Howard or box out Griner, but they can tilt momentum. They can make every Indiana run feel louder, every stop sting sharper, every possession heavier. This isn't just about survival. It's about proving Indiana belongs on this stage again. No matter what happens in Game 2, this playoff run carries weight. A season battered by injuries, tilted by officiating, and defined by grit has already set the tone for what's next. The Fever are young, resilient, and hungry. With Clark healthy, with Cunningham back, with depth restored, this group can grow into a contender. For now, though, survival is the only goal. Game 2 is everything. A win forces a deciding game and keeps the dream alive. A loss ends the run, but not the belief. And maybe that's the real takeaway. Win or lose, Indiana has proven they can take heavy punches, stand tall, and fight to the end. For Fever fans, Sunday night is more than basketball. It's history. It's energy. It's a chance to roar so loud the league remembers Gainbridge Fieldhouse as one of the toughest playoff environments in the WNBA. Because this isn't just a game. This is the moment that decides how Indiana's season will be remembered. So, what do you think? Were the Fever robbed by the referees in Game 1? Drop your thoughts below. And don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next breakdown.